All right, welcome to another episode of Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast. This is episode number 113. We will officially get started here in a couple minutes as soon as I check the feed. All right. Boy, that was quick. All right, and the feed looks good. So if
Wow.
everybody's ready, yeah, that's awesome. Okay. All right, here we go. Welcome to Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 113. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce you to the co-hosts. We have Chris Carruthers from the Remote Support Tech team. How you doing, Chris?
I am freezing, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing good. I actually have my window open. It's about, I don't know how much, below or 7 degrees or something like that. It's chilly, but it's hot in this room, so I crack the window in the winter times. It's the perfect temperature in here. I love it.
Nope. I'm pretty sure if I cracked a window in here, I'd have condensation inside my tower. That's probably what would happen.
Wow. All right. And our other co-host this week, we're glad to have Ian Alexander from REPAIRTECH come on the show. And if you guys if you don't know of Ian, he does the REPAIRTECH over at repairtechsolutions.com. He is the fine CEO over there. And I did an interview with him over on Podnutz episode number 87. And we were talking here lately, and he said, hey, why don't I come on another show? And so I invited him on this show to come and share with you guys and kind of share in the conversation whichever direction we go today. So how you doing, Ian?
Great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Good to have you. Now, how's the weather where you're at?
I'm in California. I can't complain, unfortunately. Yeah, I feel bad.
Yeah, that's right. You can't complain.
California, very nice. So you are on the opposite polar end of the, well, not quite. I guess I'm not quite. Well, I guess compared to Chris, though, Chris is far as east as you can get without leaving the country.
Look, here's where you got to think about, though, is that I complain about hot and cold, because you remember when I came back from Phoenix in August, I was complaining about how hot it was down there.
Mm.
Yeah, you can't make a Canadian happy when it comes to weather. It just doesn't exist.
Great. All right. Hey, Chris, is there anything, we don't have any emails this week, but we do enjoy the emails, and we would definitely enjoy some voicemails. And also, I'd just like to invite you guys during this time, if you're watching live, go ahead and give us a call and ask any questions that you might have. And we'll definitely we'll try to answer those to the best of our ability. Chris, is there anything weird you've been working on this week that's
yeah,
bummed you out?
There's one that came in mind, and I'm actually I'm writing this up for the newsletter as well, because it's a story that I kind of wanted to share. So I get this phone call from a client of mine that I haven't heard in for a couple of years. Just to give a bit of a background, I had gone, and she's a mortgage specialist, and she specializes in giving mortgages to self-employed people. So suffice it to say, she probably doesn't have a whole lot of business for the last couple of years. But that's how the market goes. Anyway, so she moved from her house to a townhouse, and she was setting up her home office and decided to go at it herself, which I have to give her credit. She managed to use all of the software that I installed for her perfectly to set everything up, right up until she bought a new laptop. And what I always told her is, when you're ready to buy a new computer, call me, and I will have everything set up for you. I'll make sure it's all working, and you'll be good to go. Well, what wound up happening is she bought it herself from a big box store, which I'm not going to name names, but we all know who I'm talking about, and paid the $150 for the computer setup.
Oh.
And she was really excited because, hey, when I get this computer back, it's going to be all set up for me, and it's going to be fantastic. Well, she brings her laptop home and connects her printer, because they told her how to connect her printer. And, of course, the printer works great, and the scanner doesn't, because that's what happens. So she spent 30 days with the big box store throughout their entire warranty period of them trying to fix it when she brought the laptop in every single day. Somebody please explain to me why bringing a laptop into the store would help when the printer's at home, but okay. At the end of the 30 days, they offered her remote support, but she'd have to pay for it because she was out of warranty.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, that sucks, but I can help you. I have to charge you, but I can help you.
Right.
So we did it. You know, she gave me her credit card number. I remoted into her computer, and then I said, okay, can you show me what happens? I want to know exactly when it fails. I want to know what's going on because it's probably a driver issue, but you never know. So she sets up the scan, and it works. So I'm like, okay, hang on. I'm going to disconnect, and after I disconnect, I want you to try again. And she says, okay. So she tries the scan after I disconnect. It doesn't work anymore. Give me a guess as to what you think the problem is. You know that I use Instant House Call. I'm pretty sure you know most of what happens when you connect to someone's computer. Jeff, how did it get broken?
Well, now let me ask a question because this is burning in my mind because I've had to deal with a specific problem when it comes to scanners. It wasn't an HP printer.
No.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with anything.
No.
In a reason I say that is because HP printers, unless you have all their software installed, you can't actually. I've not been able to get them, some of them, to scan. I should say it's not all of them. I don't think because I have gotten in the past some of them to scan. So
right.
What was? I don't know. I really don't.
With most remote support tools, including Instant House Call, when you connect to your customer's computer, it switches their video mode to basic. Okay.
Okay.
The problem was their video card drivers.
So, okay. Now, let me ask you another question. Since you brought that up, were there 2 video cards in that particular laptop that she bought?
No.
Okay.
There was 1 video card. What I wound up doing is it was a Dell computer. I went to the Dell website, downloaded the newest drivers, and installed them, and suddenly her scanning was working. The problem somehow, and I didn't even bother looking into why it fixed it. It was a 5-minute fix, and I just left it. For some reason, I had to upgrade the video card drivers to make the scanning work. The question that I posed to her, and the question that she is currently posing to these supervisor over at the big box store, is why is it that during a $150 computer setup was the video card drivers not updated?
Yeah.
That is my question. Yeah. What did they do during that startup is worth $150 if Windows updates and the manufacturer's drivers were not up to date? I cannot wrap my head around this. Because she told me that she wound up spending the first 3 days restarting the computer for Windows updates.
Now, let me ask you a question. So how much, and you can answer this however you want, but how much do you normally charge for a computer startup? Or how much should somebody charge for a computer a computer setup?
It depends on what you're doing. Now, I mean, if you are transferring everything from the old computer to the new one, doing the Windows updates and stuff, blah 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 blah. I mean, I've charged as much as $250 for a setup.
Okay.
Because I charge for my time. I charge $89 an hour, and then I'll cut it off at a certain point if I feel that it's getting kind of ridiculous.
Gotcha. Okay.
That one, it took 10 minutes from start to the finish of the call, and it was $89 plus tax to fix that because they didn't do their job. So I'm pretty sure that she's going to get an in-store credit, but what is that going to do?
Oh yeah, great, an in-store credit for some place that I really don't want to shop anymore. That's awesome.
Well, you can still you can still buy hardware. Like, go buy the hardware and then call me, and I'll send Brad out, and he'll go set it up for you. Like, why not?
There you go. Well, and the reason I ask is, one of the things for a data transfer and a setup, I charge $100.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that because it really doesn't take me that long. But one of the things I do is I make sure that all the drivers are updated. I make sure all Windows updates are done. Yeah. I make sure that they have a good working antivirus, not a 60-day trial that's going to run out and get their machine infected in 2 months. All these different things that we do it because it's the right thing to do. So you have a company that charges $150, and really, what did they do for that $150? That is the magic question. I would really love to know the answer to that.
Yeah, and really the only thing that I can come up with is, okay, maybe they ran Windows updates once, because let's face it, there's a lot of Windows updates when you buy a new computer.
Sure.
But the drivers weren't done. She still had a trial of Norton on there. Like there was a lot You know, even when I build like a custom built computer, I just got an order in yesterday. I ordered the parts that are being shipped in for a custom gaming system. And whenever I sell a custom system, I'm including the 1 year managed service plan in the purchase price.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to hand somebody a product that in 2 weeks they're going to come back and say, oh, and I'm getting all these pop-ups. Because, I mean, I know what gamers do with their computers, and they're just going to wreck it.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
wait. What? I take offense to that.
You're a tech, okay?
That's true.
I have dealt with custom gaming systems long enough and dealt with people calling in and saying, oh, this isn't working right, and then I remote in and find out, like, why did you uninstall the NVIDIA card drivers that I put in? What are you doing? Oh, well, one of my games wasn't working. Then run NVIDIA Experience. Oh. Anyway.
You know, these are all great points and everything, and in the understanding that there's a reason why you want a one-on-one tech versus a big box store, I think is the answer to the question. But now, Ian, you come from a background before you started Repair Tech and started doing things with the virus removal stuff. You were actually a technician that had your own computer repair business. And let me ask you this: how did you treat your customers when they were coming to you for simple things like this? Oh,
Uh-oh.
Did I lose you?
I think we lost him.
Uh-oh.
He's not moving.
Ian is frozen. All right.
How much you want to bet his computer just restarted?
Probably restarted. So anyways, we'll continue on with the conversation. Hopefully he will come back as the first chance I get to ask him a question. All right, so Chris, is there anything else that you've been working on?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, a lot of what I'm working on, I have to keep a lid on, because I don't want to announce it until it's ready.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which, I mean, that's just kind of, I guess, how my business has to work. However, there is a huge announcement coming out, and everybody on listening to the podcast can know first, because the newsletter actually hasn't gone out for this yet. It's still being reviewed by the editor. So all of our SOS Online backup clients now have NGuard protection for any computer that they have an SOS account set up for. So for people who don't know what NGuard is, I'm not going to get into a giant explanation on it, but there's three really cool things. You can configure somebody's backup remotely without needing to remote into the computer, which is a huge improvement from before. You can remotely wipe a computer, which is a huge security bonus, especially for all the BYOB people. They bring in their laptops into work and then they lose it. You can wipe all the secure data off of it. And third big feature on there is the locator. Built into the system, it'll actually tell you where the computer is based off of its IP address. And it'll give you a map and try to use different pings to actually map out exactly where it is. So.
Gotcha.
A lot of cool stuff coming out. Keep up with the newsletter, and yeah, our clients don't know about it yet, except for one, because he noticed that it was in his dashboard and he asked about it. So everybody look in your dashboards. There's a cool little icon there.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. No, sounds exciting.
Those are for our clients, though. Apparently, we hit some number, and there was some magic number that my rep was waiting for, and then I got an email one day, and they're like, "Hey, guess what? We just turned this on in your account."
Very cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm excited.
Good. Exciting times. So, yeah, as far as computer repairs this week and stuff like that, the only thing I've really done so far is basically I'm waiting on a screen, doing a screen repair. I love screen repairs because they're so easy. Very simple. Look at the back of the screen, order the part, get it in, put it back together. It's about 20 minutes of my time. Make $150. So. So anyways, well, not quite. Part of that, it's about $50. That's a screen.
I was going to say, you have to pay for the screen too.
Yeah, so basically $100, which for 20 minutes work is what I like.
Yep.
So one of the things before we get Ian back on here, I think one of the things that we were talking about last week is we were talking about referrals and how do you get referrals? And what are some of the ways that people out there are actually getting referrals to get more customers? because some of us will use Google AdWords, some of us will use Craigslist, some of us will use many different flyers, leaving your cards at a restaurant or a library or wherever. And if you look at a lot of those different ways, when a customer actually comes in your shop or in your place of business or you go to them, how do you get a referral? How do you get that person to hand either your business card out, talk about you to other people? And I'll go ahead and pose this to Chris. So Chris, back when you were building your computer repair business, what would you do? And I know some of the stories where you just made yourself available as far as talking, but what would you do as far as getting customers to refer you to other customers?
Well, I decided just to be awesome and better than everybody else, and that's how I did it. No, I mean, if you get good customer service, if your rates are fair, not cheap.
Right.
Okay, so let's not confuse the two. And you do an honest, good job for that customer, then they will, do everything that they can to make you happy, right? Now, I don't know if that's just a Canadian thing versus an American thing, but I'm going to assume that you guys are fairly similar in this, where if you walk into a business, and I'm going to use, there's an auto shop that I still kind of sort of do work for. And what I did is when I went in the first time to the shop, they were just complaining that the shop, excuse me, the shop computer in the back had some advertising pop-ups. And it was getting in the way of the guys doing their work because they couldn't order parts from the computer in the back. Well, we all know how the advertising pop-ups got there, but that was a whole different discussion I had with him in his office. So,
Which wouldn't change anything, but okay.
Well, no, it did, because our managed service plan comes with whip filtering. But anyway, so went back there, got everything cleaned up, and handed them the bill, took the payment, started talking a little bit, and I was like, I mean, there's a lot that we really should be doing here. That system back there is running Windows XP. These two computers are running Windows Vista, and all of them are too old. So we really do need to get new systems in here at some point. Here's my card. Give me a call when you're ready. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, I get a phone call, and he says, hey, you know what, I'm ready to upgrade. The one in the back's acting up. Somebody said that they thought they smelt it burning, so we turned it off. Can we get 3 new computers from you? And that's just kind of how it started. So I spent the better part of a week getting them set up. They have specialized software for their quoting and all of that stuff. And I just worked one-on-one with the owner. By the time everything was done, he was telling me that, I completely blew my competition out of the water. Everybody else that's ever come out has either screwed something up or hasn't had as much attention to detail. And he asked me for business cards to put up so that he could hand out business cards for me. I never had to approach him for it. And that's kind of the approach that I had with all of my clients. I have never once asked any of my clients for referrals because I felt that asking them for a referral was going to be more forced than it would be them providing me with clients out of their, and those are the good clients that I want, are the ones that want to find people for me. And that worked out really well for me. I had a lot of word of mouth referrals. Anytime I've ever handed my clients business cards, it's either at the end where I'm handing it to them and saying, give me a call next time you need me, or if they ask, hey, you know what, do you have like 5 more? Because I know a couple of other people that need you. Right? And those are the good referrals. Those are the ones that call you, and you're not wasting your business cards just handing a stack to somebody that's going to throw them out.
Very cool. Now, Ian, did your computer restart?
Yes.
Okay. So apparently there's a setting in there that I need to look into because I've never had that happen, but apparently it does.
You have to change your registry key for it to not restart.
Gotcha. So it was a forced restart from Windows 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's okay. It's all good.
Well, it's all good. I learned something new, and I was wrong, so I will admit it on air. But I was asking you a question, and I want to kind of move into kind of a little different question. Now, you're coming from 2 different types of businesses. You've had your own computer repair shop, and that you were running for a long time, and then you started REPAIRTECH and started doing the automated virus removal tool. Now, obviously, both of those businesses are going to depend on referrals, correct? Of some sort.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I think along the lines of what Chris was saying is that the difference between one shop and another shop isn't necessarily going to be a product. Obviously, you have a minimum service level. You have to provide a product that works, right? So you have to have computer repair that gets the job done, your viruses removed or whatever, but that's not going to make somebody love you. What's going to make somebody love you and refer you to somebody is the other stuff that you're doing outside of that. So it's the stuff that Chris was talking about, where he goes in and he tells them, he sits down with the guy in his office and explains to him why that got there. It's the interpersonal things, not so much the products, that are going to get people to want to call you again instead of calling somebody else. Because at the end of the day, you're just removing a virus from somebody's computer, or you're replacing their hard drive, and anybody can do that. Obviously, there's particular issues that are a little bit more complicated. You might have a specialty in one area, like Office 365 or something, but yeah, you kind of got to go a little extra mile and be able to talk to people, I think, if you want to get the word of mouth kind of referrals.
And I think that's what I was talking about before. We're talking about when I look at my computer repair business, I look at it as a one-on-one encounter with my customer. In other words, You can go to a big box store, you don't know who's going to handle your computer. It's probably not the person that checked it in. You don't know where it's going, but when you bring it to me or I come to you, I'm taking care of that computer. I'm making sure that it's running great. By the time I get it back to you, I talk to you not like you're a moron. I talk to you like you're a real person, and I try to make things that are understandable to you as far as getting the point across of, when people ask, well, how did I get this? And I can't say the old answer I used to say all the time, well, stay off the porn sites, because that's not so true anymore. So, and you might offend somebody too. So, what were you going to say, Chris?
I wouldn't say that it's not true anymore. I mean,
well, what I mean is that's not the only way. Like, there was back in the day that I could tell you almost 100% of the time when somebody got infected, almost not 100%, but almost 100%, it was from porn.
Well, it was either that or they were pirating things. Because even 10 years ago, the most that I would ever see any kind of an infection, don't make any age jokes, was because it was either because of porn, or it was because they were pirating games, or not using Napster. They were using something else to download their music with, stuff like that.
Oh, like Napster was safe, right?
Napster was safer. You know what?
Napster was safer than BearShare.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, granted. All right, I'll give you that. Oh.
It was all about taking a look at the user and seeing what kind of feedback they had, Jeff.
Right.
Come on.
Well, I remember people coming in, and a dad would bring his son in, and it was his son's computer, and I'd be working on it and fixing it, and I had to explain them. You can't have, I said this frost wire that somebody's downloading. I didn't say who, but somebody's downloading free music or whatever. These are why this computer's getting an infection. And it was kind of an awkward situation, because all of a sudden the father looks at the son, see, I told you. And then I end up the bad guy. I'm just pointing. I just want you to know that I took this off because you're probably going to put it back on, but you're probably going to bring it back to me in 6 months to a year, and we'll go through this whole process again.
I'm just telling you. I just want you to know you didn't do anything wrong, but because somebody installed Frostbite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't say who.
That's right.
No, but it does really come back to how do you treat your customers in giving that good customer service. Because I think there is a customer service to the point of, in your example earlier, Chris, talking about your story where you said that nobody did the driver updates on a $150 computer setup. Why? Yeah. Because to them, everything was working right. So it's not something they thought of. So I think even as technicians, sometimes we need to think of the little details and make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do, and follow up on those. Hey, did we check and see if Adobe Flash is updated, or did we check and see if Java's updated? Right. All these little things. Not every technician does that, and sometimes we might forget one or two things here or there. And I think it really comes down to the point of having some sort of, checklist or something that you can follow along with, so that your procedure is the same every time, and you're giving the same customer satisfaction every time you touch a computer.
No, exactly, and it's the exact word that you used is the one that I keep on telling all of my clients. You need to have a procedure. You need to have a process in place. You need to have a checklist that you can hand to a brand new employee and say, I want you to go and do this. Here's the checklist. If you don't understand how to do something, tell me. And your new guy should be able to go in there if they know what they're doing. Obviously, there's going to be some people that need to be trained. And it comes down to, and one of the things in the checklist, looking at a new computer setup, if they're transferring from an old one, take a look for proprietary software. Do you have Outlook? Okay, we're going to need to transfer all of those stuff over. We're going to need to set up Outlook on the new computer. Do you have QuickBooks? Okay, we're going to need to transfer that database. We need to, so people, and I've been asked in the past, why are you charging so much for your new computer setups when this guy is going to do it for 120 or 150? Well, because that person isn't going to migrate your QuickBooks database, and they're not going to move over your this, and they're not going to move these programs over and set all of this up. Like, I could spend 5 hours on a computer setting it up, and I need to charge for that time.
Right.
So you gotta set the expectation to your customer and ask qualifying questions to make sure that you're setting up your checklist properly.
It's funny that you mention a checklist, because when I have to talk to technicians about what TechSuite is, I often come back to the checklist thing, because that's what I always had a checklist, and it was on paper. But I know that a lot of technicians aren't as organized. They think they are, but they're not. And
Right.
So when I pitch TechSuite, a lot of the time I'll say, I know you have a checklist, whether it's in your head or on paper, because I know that half of them don't actually have it on paper. So I need to make it okay for them to say that it was in their head. So it's kind of a funny thing that you mentioned that. But I do think you're right. A lot of it is being consistent, and part of being consistent is making sure that you're tracking everything. Because if you don't put it on a piece of paper and actually have to check off a box, or in some fashion, it could be electronic, then what ends up happening is you finish a job and you skip steps.
Yep.
Because in your head, okay, it's fine. They don't have malware. I don't need to run this extra, antivirus scan. But when it's on a piece of paper and you have to check it off, it's like, okay, well, I guess I have to check that off, so I better run it.
Yep.
No, that's a good point, because it does, not only is it a reminder, but it does make you say, oh, yeah, let me go ahead and run that anyways. So instead of, what do they say? I can't remember what they say, but whatever. Anyways, the point being is that you really got to have some sort of, some sort of way to keep track of that stuff. And that's a good point. TechSuite will do a lot of those things for you, because you have a setup that you can basically go ahead and, click a button, and you've got a set number of programs that run. And I believe even with the TechSuite, you can set up profiles and different things on there to do it the same every time. So if you hand your technician a USB, USB drive with the TechSuite on it, they can run it on a machine, and everybody's running it identically the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of one of the things that we wanted to ensure. A lot of people have technicians that are newer, or they're not as experienced, or maybe they haven't been trained yet. Maybe they are experienced, but they haven't been trained on your process.
Right.
And one of the things that we wanted to do was make it so that with TechSuite, you could easily take lists of tools that you run, so basically your checklist, and just load it and click start. And that way, when you have a new technician, or maybe it's even an experienced technician and they're just running a preset, they just load that, they click start, and then they get a report that comes back. They don't have to go and run all the tools manually. So it makes it so that you can train new employees a lot easier, because you just, like you said, hand them the USB drive and say, hey, run this preset.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the things you said, everybody thinks that they're organized in this business, but the reality is most of us are not. I had a hard time in my own business tracking. I would have somebody, when they come in, I would have them fill out a sheet with their name, email, phone number, sign my terms and conditions, and I would take that in the computer and take it up to my bench. I threw it on a bench, and I just started going at it, because I was there to fix the computer, and that's what I wanted to do. So I'm getting in there, and I'm fixing it, and then I come to realize that by the time I get paid, give the computer back, the customer's gone, and then 3 weeks later, I forgot to put that entry of what in the world I did. I forgot to put the entry of how much I made, And so now I'm having to go back and backtrack these jobs. So it was very, very hard to me when I actually started using, software to log all this stuff, to actually start going, okay, no, I'm going to take the computer, I'm going to fill out all their information, I'm going to fill out the serial numbers, what type of operating system, I'm going to fill all this stuff out so that I have everything in case I need to order parts or whatever. And then I've got a list of what I've basically done. So as I'm going through and fixing a computer, I'm logging things in.
Right.
I did this, boom, that's done. And I know that's one of the things that the Tech Suite does also is it gives you reports. So those reports can be put into any varying different systems that we use to track what we do in our computer repair business. And that makes it awesome because you've at least got some sort of, here's what I did to the computer. So if the customer's coming back a month later and they go, hey, this, I can't get on Facebook and my videos won't load. Okay, well, was that me? Did I forget to load something? Did I forget to update Adobe Flash or whatever? A lot of times, well, I think I did. And I'll be honest with you, what's weird, I don't know if you guys have this problem, but I literally will have a customer come back to me 6 months later. And they'll call me up and they'll go, hey, you fixed my computer 6 months ago and blah, 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 and my name's so-and-so. Do you remember me? And I will tell you, quite honestly, 9 times out of 10, I don't remember that person. I just, I've done my job. I've moved along to the next customer. Now, there's a few customers that will stand out in my mind for varying reasons, but for the most part, so it's nice to have paperwork or something that I can go back to in a file folder, Excel spreadsheet, repair shoppers, different things like that. Go back to those things where I can type in somebody's name and find that information. Oh, yeah, I did this on their computer. That way, at least and you have something that you can, so you don't look like a complete and utter buffoon. But I mean, let's face it, we're all busy, right? So it's really hard for us to remember everything that we do all the time, and especially as you keep getting more and more business, it becomes harder and harder.
Right. I mean, I think one of the flawed things, even if you have a checklist, right, you can have a little notes box at the bottom or something of your checklist, and you can fill that out. The problem is that you run all these tools like Malwarebytes and stuff, and they generate logs, and you're not going to take those and put them in some, I don't know, it's just not realistic to take all the tools logs and put them in something. So that's kind of why we wanted to automate it. I don't know, it's just a lot easier to have it do it for you. So, I mean, forget about the automation part of the different tools. Just the reports themselves are very helpful because, especially if you're doing managed service stuff, a lot of the time the issue you encounter is when you're working on a business's systems, you're doing it after hours while they're not at work, so they never see you.
Right.
And a lot of the problems with that arise when they don't know how much work you're doing or if you're valuable or not, because it's not like you come into their work and sit down and show them that you're working. And so if you can show them anything, really, I mean, it doesn't even have to have any valuable information on it, but you just show them a piece of paper that says, here's what I did, then all of a sudden you're not the first person that they cut when they want to get rid of expenses.
Right. That's a good point. And I've often explained that to a lot of people. Somebody asked me about that the other day, and they were asking, what types of receipts or invoices or things do you give people? Do you give them, invoices with a bunch of the information on there of what you've done? And I'll be honest with you, as far as residential customers are concerned, most of them don't care. Does my computer work? Can I get back online and do what I was doing? They're fine with that. But you're exactly right. For businesses, you absolutely have to justify why they're paying you monthly, ticket-wise or whatever. You have to justify why you're there. Because if not, like you said, they'll cut you.
Right. And tracking all of that stuff is really important. They also need to be able to have the access to that information on demand, and it's one of the big reasons why when I'm looking at a ticketing system, I want my clients to be able to log in and see the tickets and see those notes. So for a virus removal or a tune-up, I have my checklist, and I copy and paste the checklist in there because that's all the information. But there are things you want it filling out. So here's the defragmentation rate. Here's all the tools that we had to run. Here's all the things that we had to do, and they always have that record. Now, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard somebody say that you guys integrate with some tools. Is that not true? Like, can you export into a ticketing?
Yeah, we integrate with a lot of the common CRMs, so mHelpDesk, Repair Shopper, Commit CRM, Autotask. We also have a webhook integration, so you can post the information from the reports to any URL. So if you wanted to have it like integrate with ConnectWise or something else, you could do it very easily. You can even, I mean, using a post URL, you can integrate it with if this and that or Zapier, and you can have it call you on the phone or like send you a text message or tweet you or whatever you want. So
Wow.
um,
Today on Twitter, all of the things that Chris did wrong on a computer.
Yeah, so you can integrate it with those. We're working on some more integrations right now. I think we're working on ConnectWise and TigerPaw this month, and then there's a couple others. So, but yeah, we can pretty much integrate it with anything. If you're using Repair Shopper, that's one of my favorites personally.
Okay. Very cool.
Better be careful. They're not sponsoring the show yet.
Well,
I cannot say anything about that at this point, but I'll just keep my mouth shut. Anyways, so yeah, these are great things. We kind of went from referrals where we're talking, and then we got Ian back, and we kind of went into having a checklist and in different ways to do that. I know like I said, Ian's tool does that. Even having a manual checklist of a piece of paper, the TechNibble business kit has that in there, has those checklists for taking apart a laptop, for virus removals, for
and little boxes to put your containers for the screws.
Exactly. Now, everybody, okay, I'll stop bragging. But anyways, everybody gets mad because I just kind of throw them in a bowl and when I'm taking apart a laptop, and you're like, how do you do that? I'm like,
remember where all the freaking screws go? Like, no thanks. Because you know what? I've done it where I've put the screw in the wrong box, and then I go to put the screw in, and it's like the screw's not going all the way down. What?
Let me show
and then
you.
I wind up spending like 10 minutes figuring out, okay, well now I have to compare this screw with all of the other screws to see which one's the same size.
Right. Well, nowadays, though, I will say with a lot of laptops, they are so similar. Most of them are usually you're only dealing with 2 sizes, maybe 3. And really, back in the day, the only thing that you could really damage, I think, was actually, that's a good point. The only thing you could really damage was like if you had the speaker screen on the top of a laptop. If you put the wrong size screw in there, you put a nice little indentation in the speaker screen because you had too long of a screw. I've done that a couple times, and that was not pretty, but that was years ago. Ian just brought up a point. There's a magnetic mat, which I can't show you because I'm not going to take my camera down, but to the left of me in my bench closet, which I now call it, I actually have their static mat from iFixit, and I have their magnetic mat. So now I don't have to throw these things in a bowl anymore. I just kind of throw them on this magnetic mat, and it's beautiful. It works awesome. I love it.
And I have just posted, Ian provided a link for that. I just posted it in the IRC chat, so everybody who sees it is more than welcome to take a look.
And we'll definitely put that in the show notes because I love that tool. It was a great tool, great purchase, and well worth the money. And it just works.
Yeah.
So now, we're kind of talking about referrals and different things like that. We're going to segue a little bit back. So Ian, in your businesses, and probably you too, Chris, because you ran 2 different types of businesses also. But Ian, in your businesses, what types of things do you do to get the word of mouth out about your business to get more people coming on board, that type of thing?
The best ways that we've done that have been through partnerships, and partnerships have been really great for us. We basically try to find people who have similar products that are complementary, like Repair Shopper or mHelpDesk or whoever. I mean, a lot of the people in like the ACRBO are good examples that are not competing with us, but we have the same target customers, and so we just work together. How can we work together to provide some value for our joint customers? So, for example, it could be writing an integration, or if somebody has an ebook or something, well, maybe they can give a discount to our customers, and we can give a discount to their customers. And then you don't have to write a contract. It doesn't have to be a legal thing. It can be a very simple relationship, and you could do the same thing for a computer repair shop. So if there's another shop in your area that is doing a different type of repair, they specialize in something else, you can refer clients to each other, and you don't, it can be very easy. You don't need to write up a legal doc. You just send each other business. And that's worked really well for me, both in the computer repair shop thing that I did, and also at RepairTech.
That's a great tip. I'll be honest with you, because one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is I really don't want to get into these smaller devices. I'm good at taking part of a laptop. I'm good at soldering. I can do those things. The mobile devices, changing screens and all that stuff, I just soured myself on an iPod Touch one time, which I hear are horrendously horrible anyways. But because of that, I don't really want to touch any phones or anything, because I hear they're simple, but I don't want to mess with them. But I would love to find, somebody in the area that does those types of things, and I can go, hey, here's my referral over to this shop. And I've had people in my business in the past that would, they would change RAM on a laptop, and that would be about it. They do a cleanup on it. They would not take it apart. So if it needed a power jack repair, or it needed something, deeper, a motherboard repair or whatever, he would call me up and say, hey, I got a laptop for you to look at. Hey, bring it by. He made money on it. I made money on it, and everybody was happy. And that was a great way to have that back and forth referral between businesses. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and if I could make one more suggestion, in my experience, I like to keep it simple with those relationships. It's tempting, especially in the computer repair part, to say, hey, if every person you send me, I'll give you $15 of the repair or something like that. Personally, I tried that, and I just prefer to keep it free for both sides. I think it's, you might say that there's less incentive for them to send business to you, but if you send business to them, they're going to send business to you. Like
it depends on whether it's a one-way street or not. I mean, there are a lot of places that I deal with who they have a partner for cell phone repairs as a good example, because they just don't want to have anything to do with it. Well,
Right.
It's not like that other shop is sending them business. What they're doing is just sending the business over there, and then they're getting a kickback. And I think that is a much more common relationship between shops than the back and forth that you're talking about.
I agree with you. If there's no reason for them to send business to you, then it makes sense.
And I'll say with this too, if you think about it, if somebody's charging, let's say they're charging $100 to do an iPhone screen replacement. Let's just say I don't know what the
It better be a 4S, dude.
Well, whatever. All I'm saying is, so let's say it's $100 they're charging, and me as a computer repair business doesn't deal with those types of devices. So
Yeah.
I say, yeah, I'll do it. It's going to be $125, and I'm going to send it over to this other person or whatever, and they're going to fix it. I'm going to get it back, and so I've made money on it. That other shop's made money on it. And if all they're doing is sitting around doing iPhone screen replacements or iPad screen replacements all day long, and everybody that didn't want to do that sent that to them, they could have a nice little business there. So it could, there are different ways that it absolutely could work, because I know this guy, the price I was charging him for laptop repairs, whether it be a DC jack replacement, I think back then it was $100. I know he was charging his customers more, and that was fine, and it worked out. I don't know what he was charging his customers. Don't know, don't care. He was happy with the prices that I was giving him at the time, so that type of relationship absolutely worked out.
Do you see my pain face?
Your pain face?
Going on there? My pain face. So you were taking the money and then sending it to this other guy. The guy was doing the repair, and then you were. See, the only problem that I have with that is.
Well, it's backwards, but yes.
Well, okay.
He was bringing me the laptops. I was just doing.
Okay,
I was
so
doing
he
my
was
normal
charging his
everyday
customer, bringing you the laptop. You charged him. Okay, I got it. Here's my only problem with that, is that because it's a hardware repair specifically, okay?
Yes.
With hardware repairs, permanent damage can be made. And yes, he is at the end liable for it, but your customer doesn't have the recourse to go to him if something happened like that. Your customer would have to go to you and go through you to get to him. So if anything were to happen, like, I don't know, the soldering iron went through the board or something, right? Okay, well, that's a replacement motherboard. And at the end of the day, what's likely going to happen if they decided to really go after you for it is you'd wind up paying for the motherboard and doing the replacement and doing all that, and then going after him to get the money back for it. And so that winds up being a bit of a liability thing that I wouldn't want to do that. I'd want to get the kickback from the other guy and just send the customer over personally.
That's a good point. But it's no different than with my customers. I mean, I treated him as he was my customer. So the same scenario, if I went through the motherboard, I would still have to replace that motherboard for free and give him the computer back, and I would still, whatever, I would probably break even, with the prices I was charging on that. Well, maybe not back then, because motherboards tended to be a little more expensive.
Yeah, you're probably going to be. But I mean, you're an honest businessman, and I'm not saying that there aren't honest business people out there. I'm not saying that you won't find them. What I'm saying is that a lot of the time, when you're making business dealings with somebody, this isn't your buddy that you went drinking out at the bar. This is another business, and anybody who spent any time on Technibble or any of those types of forums has seen posts about, I can't believe this is something that my competition is doing. And you could very unknowingly be dealing business with that person, right? Well, and so that's where my that's where my problems come into it. It's differently if that is the only thing that they do and they only do white label repairs. I'm coming to my own defense here.
Right.
But I mean, it's two very different things. You're going to a different shop with their own customers, and they're doing their own thing, and you never know if a mistake's going to be made. An employee in a place like that isn't going to want their boss to know that they damaged something, and it's very possible that they're going to try to hide what they've done. And it won't come up until later. So it's just, I don't know. It makes me nervous to get into a hardware repair relationship like that one, because software is easily fixable. Software, you can just reload it if you really had to, and it doesn't really take any money out of your pocket except time to redo a repair on something like that. But a hardware repair, you're looking at money for parts, you're looking at money for time, solder, all of that stuff, and it's just not worth it for me.
Well, and here's one of the things, in this is what I've talked about. There's different liabilities for business in being in business, and I'm sure Ian, you know this. There are certain things that even I've looked at where I have a hard time selling to a customer, and we've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. I have a hard time selling backup to customers, and here's why. The reality is, even if I'm partnering with XYZ company, and the customer loses their data, regardless if XYZ company, let's say they don't have it or whatever, they'll fix the problem. They'll send money back or whatever. That's not the issue. But my name is on the hook for losing data for that customer. That is a true liability. And so everybody has to deal with the liabilities that they are comfortable with dealing with. And I know it's better to have a backup solution than not. So those are the things that I really want to – I just want to emphasize to people that these are things that sometimes you have to deal with what you want to deal with and how you want to deal with it, and what's your pain point. For me, taking apart a motherboard, nowadays if I have to replace a motherboard and I've almost done it, and I screw the motherboard up, motherboards are fairly inexpensive for most laptops nowadays. So I'll eat the cost, and believe it or not, I'll still make some money on the motherboard replacement, even though it won't be as much as if I, the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. My dad has a saying, always take the money. It kind of doesn't make sense without an explanation, but basically, when you need the money, then you have to do the job, right?
Right.
So you don't really have a choice what jobs you take when you really need the money. But at a certain point, you have to start turning jobs away that you don't want.
Right.
And that kind of gets back to your liabilities thing, where it's like, if I don't want this liability, or I don't think this is the right type of job for me, then I should turn it down. And that's kind of a hard transition for some people to make, because you start your repair shop and you're just taking what you can get, because you don't have that word of mouth marketing. You don't have people coming to you that heard about you. But at a certain point, you kind of want to pick what you actually like to do for your own benefit, because you don't want to be working on things that you don't like.
Right.
And you also want to pick things that you think are worth your time, money-wise.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that calculation is the liability.
Exactly. And that's a very good point. And that's really what it comes down to, is everybody comes to these decision-making points in their business, or the only other decision point is, well, I'm not going to do this anymore because, for whatever reason. But I've all those decisions, Ian, that you just talked about, those are all decisions that I had to come to in my business. And I'm still today making new decisions based on what I want to do, how I want to do it, what I feel comfortable doing. And it's, and everybody needs to assess their business, I think, if not yearly, quarterly, whatever. I mean, I try to sit down and reassess my business at least once a year. I mean, I'm always, moving and growing and different things like that. But once a year, I get the big, okay, what am I going to do different this year? What's going to work better for me? What am I comfortable doing? What am I not comfortable with doing? What am I going to charge? All these different types of questions out there.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't wait a year, but I mean, my business changes a lot faster, I think, than most. So,
business going gangbusters.
The thought of me waiting a year before I make huge decisions that change the company kind of makes me shudder a little bit because, technology is constantly changing. The way that I have to do business is constantly changing, and I have to adapt to my new clients. When I add 4 clients in a month, like, hey, great, I got 4 new clients, but then those 4 clients, I might have to pay some special attention to them. Don't really want to have one person that I'm just, okay, I'm going to do all these things for you, so now I have to change the processes so everybody fits. And I know that a lot of repair shops do that too. I have probably 7 or 8 clients that send me updated pricing sheets every 2 months because they'll take off services, add more services, change the price of something, really, I think the difference comes in that you have long-term goals, mid-term goals, and short-term goals, right? You're like your monthly or quarterly goals, your annual goals, and your 10-year goal, right? And all those things you're going to keep on changing. You're going to keep on, rethinking, but you're not going to be rethinking the 10-year goal or the 1-year goal nearly as often as you're going to be rethinking your short-term.
Right. Yeah. Good points. Good points.
So yeah, you'll be making decisions about your business until you make the last one, which is either to shut the door or sell it.
Right.
Yeah, we have weekly meetings where we discuss like basically the short-term stuff that Chris was talking about. But then we also have to schedule, and I think this is an important thing, we have to schedule vision meetings like once every month or 2. Because if you don't actually consciously make the decision that I'm going to sit down and think about the big picture, long-term picture, you just don't do it because you're too busy with the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
And so you have to really kind of just put a recurring calendar item in there and get it done because it's important and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. No, these are all good points. And yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. There are different things that are, to me, major things are, hey, how am I going to redesign my website this year? How, what things am I going to add on there? Is the website working for me? Yeah, the smaller decisions are, stuff you deal with all the time. Hey, am I making enough on doing XYZ repair? Or am I taking that much more time to do the repairs? Is it taking more time nowadays to do the repair than what it's worth for me to charge the little bit I'm charging? So I'm going to change the price on that, or I'm going to change what I do in that repair. So there's definitely different segments of what you're thinking about in your business, and these are all great points that we all need to keep aware of. I'm always trying, I mentioned to somebody on Google Plus the other day, they were saying that, I think it was Matthew Rodella said, his goal for this year, instead of just being a goal, is a theme. And his theme is focus, which I thought was a great theme. It's an awesome theme. The way I look at my business this year compared to last year is I look at my business, even though I'm usually constantly improving my business or trying to improve it, my focus this year is going to be on improving my business, improving my processes. How do I get a process in place where I can have an employee come in that I can hand them a sheet and go, here's what you do, or I can walk them through it a couple times and they just get it, and then, kind of move on from there. So, yeah, these are definitely things that need to be talked about on a semi-regular basis at least.
Yeah, and on top of that too, and I'm just going to circle this back to our initial topic, which was the referrals and getting word of mouth referral. If you do your job one way, and your employees do the same job in a different way, and there is a variance in the results, people don't really care if they get the same results. But if there's a variance in the results where you do a little bit better than your employee does, or the opposite way around, which does happen, you're really not going to get those referrals nearly as often as you'd like. And the referrals that you do get are probably not going to be the best customers either, What you want is you want consistency, you want constant affirmation from the customer that, hey, you've done a great job. All of these things are good. Satisfaction surveys are really important. Let's get those surveys back to see, hey, we are doing a good job, or maybe we need to improve on something. Because if those processes are in place, if everybody's following the processes, including you, not just your employees, you have to follow your own processes. What you're going to start finding is that those consistent results are going to get you more referrals. The more referrals that you get, the more business you're going to have, the more employees you're going to have, the more important those steps are going to be, the more important those checklists are going to be, and it's just going to become a cyclical thing where your referrals are bringing you referrals, and as long as you don't have like friggin' Superman working down the street, you're going to be fine.
That's a great point. One of the things that I've thought about in my own business, as far as talking about the referrals, is I've thought about, and you guys let me know what you think about this, but things like offering a discount. For hey, if you pass my name around and somebody comes in, you'll get a either a gift card or a coupon towards other service or something like that. I've kind of wrestled with that and said, is that an effective way? And you guys you've probably been in the business longer than I have. What are those? Are those ways that are feasible? Because I know that some people do that, or even hey, I'll give you a discount if you put a something on my Facebook page, for my business. You just give me a write up, I'll give you a little $10 discount or something like that. But do those types of things work from your guys' experience, or have you ever used anything like that?
They certainly work. I mean, that's why things like Groupon exist. But I don't think, it depends what your mindset is. Are you trying to grow your customer base dramatically? If that's the stage you're in, then you can do that, but I would recommend doing it on a short-term basis. Okay. I don't personally like the idea of giving out permanent discounts, or like a discount that always exists. I'd rather do it on a promotional basis. So maybe you do it every December or something like that. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of at any point someone can come in with a little coupon and say, hey, I have this coupon, so it's half off, or this computer repair is free, or whatever.
Right. Yeah, good point.
I agree, and it's not that it's the same thing. It's not that you can't do promotional discounts. Like January, doing a promotion in January to get half off of a computer transfer to a new computer, that's a fantastic idea. But you don't want somebody to do that 6 months from now. You want them to do it now, right after Christmas, when there's a rush, so you can get a whole lot of business in, get that whole lot of business out, and make a better profit this month to start off your year good, get yourself pumped. That's fantastic. You don't want that 6 months from now, because you're not going to have a billion people walking in with their brand new computers they just got from Christmas anymore, right? So right. Yeah, absolutely. Have some short-term discounts. Make sure the discounts make sense from when it's going. Virus removal discounts you can do pretty much any time of the year, but around the holidays is usually the better time. Not specifically Christmas, but year-round, March break, things like that, where people are using their computer a lot more heavily. That's a great time to have some virus removal discounts. What I will say is that I don't give my clients discounts for promoting me. I will absolutely provide a kickback on a new customer sign up. And back when I was just doing the computer repairs, I would sometimes give my customer credit, like a small credit on their account, if they referred me a business client that had more than 4 computers. As long as I signed that contract with that client, they got a kickback for that, because hey, thanks for being a great customer. Here is a service credit. But that's the extent of it, right? Okay. You don't want to turn it into the more people that I tell everybody about Jeff, the more money I'm going to get, because then you're going to wind up with constant door knockers, you're going to wind up with tire kickers, you're going to wind up with someone who gets the job done and then doesn't want to pay the price at the end because it's too high, because, well, Jimmy said that he was going to get a virus removal for this much money because he sent me over to you.
Yeah, those are good points. And this is why I've wrestled with these types of things, because I've gone, okay, what's the best way to do it? And are my prices already at a point where they're fair? Like we said, not cheap, but fair, that it's worth it for me to do it at the price I'm doing it now. But if I do it any cheaper, then I'm going back on the cheap side of things. And how important is that to get new customers into your business, or is it better to just maybe get less customers, grow a little more slowly, and basically, not do those types of referrals?
Yeah, but you also want to make sure that you're growing your business with the right customers too, right?
Right.
And that's I think a lot of people miss that when they're making their vision of their company and they're thinking about how they're going to be working on computers all day and it's going to be great and I'm going to have all these customers and I'm going to hire people and I'm going to make all this money. And then you get into the position where you are having a lot of people walking into the store or a lot of people calling, and most of them are so cheap, right? And then you got to step back and think, well, no, but then you got to step back and think,
I'm just laughing.
Right? But then you got to step back and think, what is it in my advertising that's telling customers that I'm the cheap guy to go to? What is it in the way that I'm conducting my business that tells people that I'm the discount computer repair company? Because I've been able to see it. I've seen both sides of the fence where, I've got clients who, deal with multi-millionaire customers most of the time, or at least people who are business owners that are successful business owners, and they have money, and half the time when you quote them the price, they already have their credit card out because they don't care. And then the constant phone calls on the other side of the spectrum that say that $99 is too much money for a virus removal. Well, that's cheap. That is cheap for a good virus removal. So what is it? And it usually comes down to either the advertising, the way that you're advertising yourself, the type of word of mouth that you're getting, from your other clients, how you're showing yourself on Yelp, the yellow pages, and just how you dress. One client I've had to tell him, like, listen, you can't show up at a customer's house in ripped jeans and a T-shirt. You can't. At the very least, get yourself some printed T-shirts. If you just want to, that's fine. I have no problem with T-shirts, but get yourself some nice, some nice colored T-shirts with your logo printed on it or something. And fine, wear jeans, but get some darker jeans. Get them that aren't dirty, that they aren't, because that guy is going to go to Cletus down the road and refer him over to you, and you're going to be explaining to him why you can't get any lower than $40 for a virus removal because that's just as low as you can go. And that's not how you want to grow your business.
Right.
So, keep your referrals proper, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to.
Good points. Ian, anything to weigh in on that?
I mean, I agreed with everything you said, and I also found the ripped jeans thing pretty funny.
Okay, I guess I'm going to have to stop wearing jeans, and I'll start wearing slacks.
Thank you. I wasn't going to name any names, Jeff.
Well, here's the thing. I do most of my repair in my home, and people come to me, so I guess I probably shouldn't wear my Doctor Who pajamas when I'm, answering the door.
It's okay as long as you're wearing a Tartarus for a robe.
Oh, so anyways, I think we've covered a lot of areas as far as referrals and stuff like that, and in what kind of good ways and bad ways to do things. And you kind of got to feel your own business out and figure out what it is you want to do as far as referrals, how you want to go about that. And I always tell people, I'm willing to try anything once. Give it a little test run, see how it works. Like these guys said, don't do it long term, but try some different things. Because a lot of times if we won't try something, what we'll end up doing is we just sit stagnant, not doing anything, as far as in our business, not growing our business. We just kind of sit idle, and eventually that gets really old. In my opinion, not a lot of times not really worth it. It's not worth it for me to take my effort to sit here and just maintain this business if I'm not going to actually take the effort to grow it and do some different things with it. And really, the bottom line is what we're all doing here is we're really helping the customer, and that's really what it comes down to. And I want to help the customer, but I also want to be paid accordingly.
Absolutely.
Now, with that being said, now, Ian, we've brought you on the show and stuff like that, and you've weighed in with some great things. But if you could, let's take this little last segment of the show and kind of talk about what your tool, Tech Suite can do to help some of the processes and different things that we're talking about today.
Sure. Well, let me just recap in my mind what we talked about. So we talked about having a checklist.
Right.
We talked about having reporting. We talked about putting stuff in a CRM. We talked about being consistent. So what we do at RepairTech is we make a software suite called Tech Suite, and it includes tools that help you automate and organize your computer repair process. And so basically what it does, it takes all the same tools you're already using, Malwarebytes, Combo Fix, CCleaner, those kinds of things, and instead of you having to run through them manually, clicking next and finish and remove on every single computer, um, it enables you to simply select what you want to run ahead of time in one user interface, click start, and then you can go back to a report. So essentially it addresses those issues. It helps you be more efficient by automating the actual running of the tools, but it also ensures that you have a checklist, or I guess eliminates it in a sense because you do all of that planning through the application, and then it ensures that your process is tracked by giving you these reports at the end. So it generates these beautiful HTML reports that say, it pulls the Malwarebytes log for you, for example, or the ADW cleaner log, and puts it in there so a reference to give to the client. And that makes you look a lot more professional. You can you can custom brand them with your logo and stuff. And it also makes sure that your less experienced technicians are performing the same processes as your more experienced technicians. So your training is faster. You're more consistent. You're not going to skip any steps because what's the point in skipping a step when everything is automated? And you're going to have records that you can show to your clients. So if they come back to you and they say, hey, you told me that my hard drive was okay and now it crashed, well, you can go and you show them a report that says, yeah, it was okay, and I have proof because I ran 3 hard drive tests and here's what it said, and that was at this date, and and this technician ran it. So, and then as far as the CRM stuff, it integrates with all of those so that you can have those reports in your ticketing system. So if you want to print out something in Repair Shopper and give it to your client, the report is attached there, so it just streamlines the whole thing for you.
Great. No, that sounds awesome, and it sounds like it keeps you on track for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that a new technician, and what I mean by new is, there's varying different experiences. I mean, you could have a 12-year-old, quite honestly, that's smarter than I am, that could do computer repair. But do you think a new technician coming into the field can pick your tool up and and understand it enough to get started in computer repair, doing virus removals, doing maintenance fixes, and different things like that with your tool?
It's an interesting question. When I started making the tool, I wasn't trying to replace a tech. It's not meant to replace a technician's knowledge. It's just meant to take an experienced technician, or you don't have to be super experienced, but you've done computer repair before, and you know not to run Combo Fix on certain computers because it's a wrecking ball, or what resetting your windsock does. We're not going to teach you how to use the tools. We're going to empower you to use them better.
Gotcha.
And so we do have a lot of technicians that call us that frankly just don't really know what they're doing, and they tell us. I had a guy, and I won't name any names. I had a guy get really angry at us over the phone because he ran Combo Fix while he was in a remote session, and Combo Fix, yeah, and Combo Fix messed up his network settings, which it does very often.
Exactly.
Because if you go to Bleeping Computer and you look at Combo Fix's disclaimer, it says this frequently will mess with your internet connection. Here are the steps to fix that. And he didn't know about it, and he thought it was our fault. And look, I don't know what to tell him.
Sure.
Yes, we enabled you to run that tool, but I don't think it's really our fault in that case. And so I don't know. There's a balance between it should be really easy to use, but you should also understand what you're doing.
And that's a great point, because I'll tell you what. One of the things that I tell people, nowadays. And I've had people that have approached me and said, hey, I started off at big box store XYZ, and I'm like going, listen, I don't really care about that. I said, are you willing to learn as a technician? Because if you're willing to learn, I can really teach pretty much anybody
Yep.
do what I do. And that's what it comes down to. And here's the problem with newer techs, and I'm not saying anybody out in the audience or anything I'm just saying there's a problem with some newer techs coming into the business not knowing how the registry works. And don't get me wrong, I don't understand everything about the registry. I'm probably just on the tip of the surface, but I can get around the registry and do the tweaks and things that I need to do in order to do my computer repair. But there's a lot of people that they will run a suite of tools not knowing what they're doing. And perfect example, Ian, somebody runs Combo Fix, and I rarely anymore run Combo Fix unless all my other manual fixes didn't work. Then I will run that as like a last resort. I don't use it as a first line of defense. There's no reason to.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of other different tools out there, and you've got to know what you're doing. And what I tell a lot of people, too, is the way I started using these tools, because I use your tool and some of the other tools out there, is the way I start using tools is I'll take either a bench computer, an old computer, a laptop, whatever, and I'll plug these things in, and I'll go ahead and run them.
Sure.
And then I'll run them from a remote. Now, do I do it 100% of the time for everything? No, because I even ran into a problem where I was running a remote session, and I ran ADW cleaner, and it killed the connection.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
any of them can.
Well, any of them can. This was the first time I had done a remote session like this where I was doing a cleanup, and everything else that ran was fine. But for whatever reason, ADW cleaner killed the connection. Now, we all know that once you run that, you've got to restart the system and all that kind of stuff. I was aware of that. I just wasn't aware that it was going to kill whatever remote support software I was using at the time. So these are things that you're going to learn as you go, but you got to be willing to learn. And these are things but you got to have a basic understanding. I think is basically what Ian's saying. Basic understanding of what you're doing as a technician, and be willing to learn and read some things out there. I mean, that's how a lot of us came up, reading a lot of things online, and you can't believe everything you read online, but you can, some of it is good information. Try it out. Yeah. If it works, great. If it doesn't, move on to the next thing. But be very cautious when you're doing some of that stuff. So
yeah. Yeah, and the thing to remember too, and Ian, I mean, thank you for being honest when you were asked that question, because I know how tempting it would be to say, oh yeah, my 6-year-old could pick this up, and all you have to do is pick off some boxes and hit start. Because I mean, I had the same conversation with other tools, with people where they're like, well, yeah, if I just put Hitman Pro and Malwarebytes on a stick, I could go do a virus removal too. No, no, you can't, because there's more to it than just running a tool. You have to understand what the tool is doing. You have to understand what kind of changes are being made, because things could break. It might not be fixed by the end of that tool running. I mean, let's look at, I don't know, whatever, conduit. Let's look at conduit. You can remove the conduit infection all you want, but if the toolbar is still sitting there, you've still got conduit on the computer. It's going to re-download, reinfect.
Right.
So a technician that doesn't know that is going to run a tool and say, okay, this is fixed, and then walk away from it and have to come out a week later and fix it again, because that's how long it takes people to call us when there's something wrong with their computer.
Right, yeah, not the day after. This isn't working.
Exactly. So, I mean, tools like this, absolutely. I think it's great for somebody who is new to the business, not new to being a technician. I mean, before I touched my first computer professionally and took money for it, I put myself through college and graduated as a network administration technician. So, like, I have all of that first, because I wanted to know what I was doing before I just started diving into somebody's system. And if someone had handed me one of these tools at the beginning of college, I probably would have gotten so full of myself so fast, because it makes it look so easy when you look at them. Right. All I do is check off these boxes. Hey, what does this button do? And then you're done. Right? So not I'm sure you don't have any tools in there that specifically do that, but you can really you can really mess up a system with combo fix really, really badly. Right?
Oh yeah.
And I've done it. I've run combo. I will not run combo fix obviously on a remote connection, because yeah.
Oh, it's going to kill your. Yeah, it automatically will kill your connection. There's no doubt.
Right, you're done. But I had a system once it was on my bench, and I was green. I was very green, and I had read about this really awesome tool called Combo Fix that's supposed to fix everything, and it is a glorious, glorious bulldozer.
It's magic.
Right? And so I ran my magic tool, and then I wound up spending an hour fixing it afterwards because I wound up with a blue screen on startup.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, so and quite frankly, I did not know what that tool did. I was trying it out. Now, I mean, it was a family member's computer, so for me to say, hey, I backed up your stuff, it's fine. It'll just take an extra day. They're like, meh, and they just use their cell phone. But a customer might have gotten a little upset if I had told them that, right? So you got to understand what you're doing.
And quite honestly, and I, even though it looks like I put Ian on the spot, I knew how he was going to answer the question anyways. I've known Ian for a while, and and I know that he's a good type of technician that's going to be. I mean, let's face it. In order to make these tools effective, I think you're a technician first, and then you bring a tool to enhance the technician second.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to being a good technician,
Right.
And I'm trying to remember. Ian said something. I think it was on another podcast the other day, and I can't remember what the quote was, but I'll think of it in a minute. But anyways, continue, Ian. I'm sorry. we went off on a rabbit trail there.
I mean, I think it's okay for a new technician to use the software as long as they're not working by themselves. If they're working with a more experienced technician that can walk them through and explain what's happening, then it's fine. But if you're just coming into the business, I think you should probably, it's almost a rite of passage to go and have to run these tools manually anyway, so you can experience the frustration of how annoying it is.
Right.
And then you can go and do some automated things, but I don't know. I agree. It's just too. A lot of our tools, they'll run random commands in command prompt behind the scenes, and in the description it'll say running these things. So for example, we have a tool called Reset Networking, and it does all these different things with the WinSock and all kinds of stuff, IP config stuff. And if you don't know what that does, so that tool should only be run if the networking stuff is broken, because it's supposed to fix it, right? But a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this too, I've run it when it works, and it can break it, which is, I realize, counterintuitive, but if you actually look at what those commands do, it makes sense. So it's just kind of one of those things where a less experienced technician would look at that and say, oh, whatever, and just run it.
Right. I think you've made a great point. Is that it is nice to, well, not nice, but it's a good learning experience in a good rite of passage for technicians to take that time and to learn how to do it manually, and even digging into some of the deeper stuff, and not always using an automated tool, understanding how to do some command line stuff that can fix your problems, even basic things, instead of just, hey, I'm going to take an hour to run a tool when it could have taken me 5 seconds to type in this command and go from there. And then you have a better understanding, I think, of how a automated tool works. And let's say the automated tool doesn't do what you need it to do, then at least you can always fall back on your good technician skills in being able to fix the problem.
Right. One of the funny things that happened. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When we were first starting REPAIRTECH, we were in an incubator program, like a business incubator, and no one on staff at the incubator knew about computer repair. They had technology background, some of them, but they didn't know about computer repair, and they all wanted us to make a consumer product. And they wanted us to, at that time, we just had Tech USB, which is like a bootable computer repair operating system kind of thing.
Right.
And they wanted us to make it into basically Fix Me Stick or Jump Shot, which came out afterwards, and those were consumer versions. And I was just so not into that, because I realized, like, what if we make a tool that's going to automate this for a consumer? They're just going to break their computer.
Oh yeah.
There's just no way. There's no way. I mean, look, you could remove some viruses, but malware scanners all the time pick up Windows executables, and you can just remove those, and bam, you can't boot. So
for sure. Well, I mean, McAfee did it to the police force. Like every laptop in every police car in, I think it was Wisconsin, for a day, they didn't have laptops because McAfee Business, after an upgrade, grabbed a Windows system file, called it a virus, and killed it. and all of their laptops blue screens. So now the Carruthers didn't have laptops.
Well, you know,
It could happen.
it's funny you brought that up, Ian, because I'm sitting there, and I wasn't sure I was going to bring it up in the show, but I'm glad you kind of segued into it. I was sitting there at a Red Robin restaurant with my wife eating lunch, and I'm watching on all the screens that are around, and all of a sudden I see this commercial come up for wind cleaner, and I'm like, and it's one of those, the USB stick with all these tools on it. Hey, you don't need a computer repair tech to clean your stuff anymore. You just get this tool, you plug it in, and just hit the button, and you're good to go. And I'm like,
Right.
I started laughing hysterically in the middle of the restaurant. People were kind of like, what's going on? I looked at my wife. I said, you got to be kidding me. Are you serious? They actually have something like that consumers, it's just like all the tools that are out there that we use as technicians are available to consumers. And how many times, or even there's illegitimate ones, how many times do they use all these programs to try to fix their computer, and then you have to spend so much more time cleaning all their stuff up because you've got your Reg Optimizer, you know, PC cleaner, you know,
Right.
drive, whatever,
Hey.
and it's like, come on.
You be careful, Jeff, because PC Optimizer Pro made my computer run so fast.
That's crazy. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
They download all these tools and they still bring it to us. So you still have to have that background where you know what you're looking at. And I don't know if it's like this for you guys, but it may be a little less on the remote support side sometimes. But I know when I physically have a computer that I'm doing a cleanup on, I can just feel when it's running better. You know, when I'm clicking on things and there's no lag, and you know, so after I've done a cleanup on a computer, I can vastly see the difference of what's actually going on, and I go, okay, because there's times where I get done with a cleanup and I go, man, something is still just not right, and I'm like going, I'm not calling the customer yet. I'm going to look into this a little bit more and figure out what's going on, and you know what? I'll either run another tool, I'll look into a couple other things, whatever, and I'll get to the point where the problem's fixed. You know, maybe I know what it is, maybe I don't, doesn't really matter. But the point is, I go, oh yeah, now it's operating correctly. And that's really, I think, the point that every computer tech really should get to, that point where they get that computer running. You know, here's the email responses I get after 2 weeks or even 3 months of fixing a computer lately, is people are saying, hey man, my computer runs so fast, it runs great, thank you so much. That's it. And you know, end of email. And I'm just like going, yeah, that's cool. So
I think there's an intuitive part of being a tech. I mean, it's the 10,000 hours thing, right? You put enough hours in and you can kind of just feel what's going on.
right.
For the client, I think it's a combination of, yes, you tuned their computer up and it's way faster. You remove that malware so there's no more pop-ups, or you ran a check disk and so the file system error they were having isn't slowing the computer down anymore or whatever.
Right.
And then there's also a heavy level of placebo. And that, to me, is like one of the funniest things that happens when a client comes in and I haven't even done anything and they start playing with the computer like, wow, it's much faster now.
All I did was upgrade Internet Explorer. What are you talking?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no, it's true. You know, actually, those are probably good customers to have, because even though, and I'm not saying we should do anything malicious, but we're going to be good technicians. But even if it's a minor improvement, you know, a lot of times people are, you know, because if you've got older hardware, let's face it, even if you do a super cleanup on this computer and get it running the best that it can, it's still an old computer. It's only going to run so fast. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Sir, I promise you, I did a tune-up on your computer, and this is as fast as it's going to run, running Windows XP with 256 megs of RAM. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
This is all you're going to get.
You guys are going to laugh, but I had to do, late last year, I did 2 other Windows XP machines because it was for a specific service. It was actually for a survey service that he wasn't making enough money to update his license. It was going to be like $15,000 to update his license for the software he's using. So he bought all these XP machines from I don't know where. Every one of them had a, you know, N version of Windows XP on it for whatever reason. And I had to go in and fix all those, but it's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, they ran fine for, you know, Windows XP runs fine with decent hardware, and they were all Pentium 4s, you know, a couple gigs of RAM, whatever, or maybe a gig of RAM, and they were running fine. But yeah. So.
Yeah, Microsoft messed up. They made XP a little bit too good, and
Right.
then they made Vista. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's unfortunate, but that really, and Ian, you probably understand this better than any of us here, that goes back to more of a coding issue, because if you had the right hardware, Windows Vista on my machine ran like butter. It was great. I never had a problem with Windows Vista. I was running Windows Vista Ultimate, 64-bit, no problems. But I was also running a Core i7 processor with, whatever.
32 gigs of RAM, it must have been.
Well, it was like 8 gigs back then, but yeah, I mean, it was enough to make it. I never had a problem, but then Windows 7 came out, that ran, the code in that was so much better that it ran with a lot lighter, requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And then Windows 8, same thing. It runs even better than Windows 7 on the same machine.
Right.
And so on and so forth. So.
The problem we encounter with those is Microsoft is pretty bad at keeping. They make it very hard for software developers to support multiple operating systems. So we still have 5% of the computers, maybe it's 6% of the computers are XP that people are using our software on. So we still have to support XP. Oh. And because of that, we have to use old versions of Visual Basic to write our software, because it has to go all the way from XP up to 8.1. And it's you have to be concerned with what version of .NET they have installed on their computer and all this. There's a million things you have to be concerned about, and I think if you're on other, like Linux is completely different. Writing software for Linux is pretty easy. Same for OS X, but
okay.
For Windows.
Well, yeah, but OS X doesn't have nearly as much support, right, for the developers?
True, and it's incredibly slow. It took us like 3 weeks to even get a response about getting our developer license for our iPhone app. It's crazy. Apple, unless you're Google or something, Apple's not going to get back to you very quickly.
Wow.
To that? See, I know things.
Now, so coming back to so when do you think that you'll be able to drop support for Windows XP on your tool?
I don't think we'll ever fully drop support. What we'll probably do is just have a version of our software that works on XP and stop upgrading it, and then have another version that we continue to upgrade.
Okay.
Couldn't you just do that now?
We could do that now, but it's not really extra effort other than testing. Because at a certain point, when we stop supporting XP, what we're probably going to do is rewrite the whole thing.
Okay.
With a newer technology.
Like get the new stuff in there and.
Right, but I mean it's going to be basically a full rewrite, and it's going to take like 6 or 8 months.
Okay.
If not more. So at that point, we might as well just stop what we're doing with the current one and start developing the new one. But until then, it's not really that much extra effort. It's just a problem because the infrastructure we're using is so old.
Gotcha.
So you heard it here first. In 9 months, there's going to be a new version, and XP will be dropped. Problem solved.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's fine for now. It's just that I would like to be able to use like the new features in Visual Studio. The application would look way cooler and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, you need to have Windows 10.
Get over it. It's Windows 10. Who cares? It's another version of Windows. That's awesome in itself.
Yeah, well, you see, Jeff, if you had been paying attention, my joke was about how poor of a programming skills that they had to skip Windows 9.
Oh, yeah, it went right over my head.
That's okay. I brought it down for you.
I know. Thanks. Appreciate that. Well, guys, I will tell you, I've had a blast on this show talking about a lot of different subjects. Ian, I thank you so much for bringing your thoughts and everything to what we talked about today, and even rolling in your tool and stuff like that. It's great. I think a lot of good information again. I'll tell you what, if you want to go ahead and tell people where to get more information on your tool and how to get a hold of you, and if they have any questions or anything like that, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Our website is repairtechsolutions.com. If you have any questions for me directly, feel free to shoot me an email. It's just ian@repairtechsolutions.com. Be happy to answer any questions you have. I guess that's it. Very cool. Yeah, no, that's and I'm telling you guys, you know what? Get the tool, give it a shot, try it out, see if it helps you with your process, because I guarantee you it's better than the manual process you're using now, and it will save you a lot of time and effort. Maybe not effort, but it will save you a lot of time in doing the things that we do on a regular basis. So definitely check that out. We'll have all the links in the show notes for that. And Chris, I'll tell you what, go ahead and tell people where they can find more out about you.
You can't. So you can either call us 866-568-2813. You can email us at info@rstechteam.com, or you can just go to our website, www.rstechteam.com. We provide white label services for computer repair shops, so if you need some work done, you just give us a call.
Excellent. And also, I want to let you guys know you can come check out Ken Dwight, the Virus Doctor. He is doing a free 2-part webinar on advanced virus removal techniques for Podnutz on February 4th and the 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can check out the interview I did with Ken over at Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast number 107. And I will have a sign-up link in the show notes that you can sign up for that free webinar. If you guys want to learn more about virus removal, I learned a ton. Even though I still use a lot of automated tools, I learned better on processes and orders of things on how to, make my virus removals that much better, and definitely worth the free couple hours over a 2-week period there. So definitely check that out. You can also find me on the Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC, and you guys can leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. Or check us out every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can call that same number live. If you're a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily, we're always looking for new guests. Please email me at podnutzdaily@podnutz.com. And if you'd like to feature your product or service on this show, email me at podnutz@podnutz.com. If you guys can, leave us a rating and review over on iTunes. That would help out. You guys can also support the Podnutz Network. Next time you're shopping at Amazon, go to podnutz.com/Amazon. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast. Yeah, very good. Oh, still a long show. Oh, my gosh. It's like 5:45. Oh, sorry we went a little bit later, guys, but I figured good information out there. So
You have to give me a second. I'm playing the music in my head.
Okay. you play the music in your head. I hear voices. Okay. Oh, you're silly.
Oh, right?
Well, thank you very much, Ian. I really appreciate you coming out. And
yeah, no problem. It's always fun.
We're still on air, so just so you know, we kind of do a little bit after show. We're probably going to cut it a little bit short here, since we're getting long in the show. But I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and Chris, you wanted to talk to Ian off air?
After, yeah, whenever.
After. Okay. All right, guys, I think we will probably, since we've gone a little bit long today, I think we will probably cut it short here, and we will see you guys next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and still same time, same place. Give us a call, and we will definitely be willing to answer any questions on the air or voicemails and emails. All right, everyone have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye.